So a couple key things I want to point out on the model, like Alex said earlier, your model is your best friend. I always like to go to the model first, even though I have experience prior to these classes, just because it's a good visualizer before you actually go into palpating, because everyone's different, everyone has different body types, different skin colors. Not everything is going to be as easy to find from person to person, but at least with the skeleton, you can get a feel of where things are supposed to be and how they're supposed to feel like, especially with the bones. So I try to look here first, get an idea. My biggest tip for palpation is figure out your landmarks, because if you can find your landmarks consistently, you can kind of use them to find everything else you need, and you can always come back to them as a reference point if you get lost. So most of the time, the easiest landmarks to find are always going to be the bones. So finding them on the skeleton, super huge, so that you can get an idea where they're supposed to be, what they feel like. Now for me, usually the most prominent landmarks, especially in the shoulder, are going to be things like the acromion, the clavicle, spine of the scap, the type of bones that tend to stick out no matter what the body type is. But as you learn, as you practice, use the ones that are easier to find for you. So whichever bone that you're like, man, I can get this bone 10 times out of 10 on anybody, use that as your landmark. And that's gonna be especially important in your skills check, because I know one of the questions they like to ask is like, okay, well, how did you find this? What landmarks did you use? It's a common question you'll get asked. So if you already do that on a regular basis, it's gonna be easy. Also with that too, this is for you guys to learn. This is gonna be an essential skill when you actually go out to the clinics. I use it all the time. You need to do it in a way that works for you and that actually is useful to your patient. So if you're in a skills check and maybe you just always go to the acromion, you just like to go to the acromion, maybe it's a little far from where you're actually supposed to be, just tell them, hey, wait, like, don't let them intercede. They'll count that as like a correction. Find that and then get to where you need to be. And if they ask you, oh, why did you start here? That's just something I like to do. That makes me feel confident. And then as you practice, maybe you won't need to do that anymore, but especially when you're starting out, it's more about being accurate than being quick or doing it exactly like your professors are teaching you.